the beginning, there was silence. No light, no darkness, just an endless void where nothing had yet learned to exist. But from that silence came the first breath, the first word, the first spark of divine consciousness that would set the universe ablaze with purpose and conflict. Tonight, we're diving into a story that makes Game of Thrones look like a children's bedtime tale. A cosmic drama that unfolded before history began, before the first human ever drew breath, before the very concept of civilization was even a whisper in the wind. This is the story of two brothers whose rivalry didn't just shake the heavens, it literally shaped the destiny of mankind. Their names were Enlil and Enki, and their battle, it's still raging today. You see, most people think ancient mythology is just primitive storytelling, fairy tales told around campfires by people who didn't understand science. But what if I told you that buried within these ancient texts lies a blueprint for understanding human nature itself? What if the conflicts between these cosmic beings weren't just stories, but memories? Echoes of events so profound they've been encoded into our collective DNA. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why every war that's ever been fought, every political struggle, every clash between order and chaos can be traced back to this primordial conflict. You'll see how the fingerprints of Enlil and Enki are pressed into the very fabric of our modern world, from the halls of power to the code running on your smartphone. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning, because this story doesn't begin with humans. It begins in a realm where thought becomes reality, where words reshape worlds, and where two fundamentally different visions of existence are about to collide with the force of 1,000 supernovas. Picture this, the Anunnaki Council Chamber, a space that exists beyond the boundaries of what we call reality. Here, beings of pure consciousness gather to decide the fate of countless worlds. And at the center of this cosmic parliament sit two figures whose very presence seems to bend the fabric of space around them. Enlil, the Lord of the Wind, keeper of order, master of the divine decree. When he speaks, mountains bow. When he breathes, storms are born. He is the architect of cosmic law, the enforcer of divine will, the one who believes that structure and hierarchy are the only things standing between existence and chaos. And across from him, Enki, the Lord of the Sweet Waters, keeper of wisdom, master of the forbidden arts. His touch brings life to barren worlds. His whisper unlocks the secrets of creation itself. He is the patron of knowledge, the champion of progress, the one who believes that consciousness should be free to explore every possibility, no matter how dangerous. Two brothers, two worldviews, one universe, and it's not big enough for both of them. Now, you might be wondering, why should I care about some ancient story? Why does this matter in 2025? Well, here's the thing that'll blow your mind. This isn't just ancient history. This is the operating system of human civilization. Every political ideology, every scientific breakthrough, every moral dilemma we face today can be traced back to this fundamental split between order and freedom, between control and creativity, between the way things are and the way things could be. Think about it. Every time you've felt torn between following the rules and breaking new ground, you've felt the echo of this cosmic conflict. Every time society has had to choose between security and liberty, between tradition and innovation, between collective harmony and individual expression, that's Enlil versus Enki, playing out on the stage of human consciousness. But before we dive into how this ancient drama shaped our world, we need to understand what was at stake, because this wasn't just a family feud. This was a battle for the very soul of creation itself. The Anunnaki, and yes, I know that name triggers all sorts of wild theories, but stay with me here, were described in the ancient texts as beings of immense power and intelligence. They weren't gods in the way we typically think of them, all-knowing and perfect. They were more like cosmic administrators, entities tasked with the development and guidance of emerging civilizations throughout the universe. And they had a problem, a big one. Earth, this beautiful blue-green marble spinning in the cosmic void, was at a crossroads. Life had evolved to a certain point, but it was stuck. The early hominids had potential, sure, but they were trapped in an endless cycle of survival. Hunt, eat, sleep, reproduce, die. No art, no philosophy, no reaching for the stars. Just existence without purpose. The Anunnaki Council faced a choice: leave Earth as it was or intervene. And if they chose to intervene, how far should they go? Should they guide from a distance, nudging evolution along its natural course? Or should they take a more direct approach? This is where our two brothers stepped forward with radically different visions. Enlil's proposal was elegant in its simplicity. Create a workforce. Genetically modify the existing hominids just enough to make them useful. Intelligent enough to follow complex instructions, but not so intelligent that they'd question their place in the cosmic order. Keep them focused on practical tasks. Mining, agriculture, construction. Give them just enough consciousness to be productive, but not enough to be dangerous. Order, Enlil declared, his voice resonating through dimensions, is the foundation of all existence. Without hierarchy, without clear roles and boundaries, consciousness becomes chaos. We have seen worlds tear themselves apart when beings are given too much freedom, too much knowledge, too much power. We will not repeat those mistakes here. His vision was compelling. A stable, predictable civilization where everyone knew their place, where conflict would be minimized because roles would be clearly defined, where progress would happen at a controlled pace, guided by wisdom and experience rather than reckless experimentation. But Enki? Enki had a different dream entirely. Brother, he said, and in that single word was both love and challenge. You speak of order as if it were life itself, but order without growth is death. You would create slaves where we could create partners. You would plant seeds, but never let them bloom into trees. Enki's vision was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. He wanted to give humanity not just intelligence, but the spark of true consciousness, the ability to question, to create, to reach beyond their current limitations. He wanted to unlock the same creative power that flowed through the Anunnaki themselves. Imagine, Enki continued, his words painting pictures in the minds of the assembled council, a species that doesn't just follow our instructions, but contributes their own innovations. Beings who can look at a problem from angles we've never considered, who can create art that moves even us, music that resonates across dimensions, stories that expand the very boundaries of what we think possible. The council was split. Some saw the wisdom in Enlil's caution. After all, they had witnessed civilizations that had destroyed themselves through unchecked technological advancement or philosophical extremism. Others were intrigued by Enki's bold vision of true partnership between the Anunnaki and humanity. But the debate went deeper than just practical considerations. At its core, this was about the nature of consciousness itself. Was awareness something to be carefully controlled and parceled out in measured doses? Or was it a force that demanded freedom to flourish, even if that freedom came with terrible risks? The tension in that cosmic chamber was palpable. Two brothers who had worked together for eons, who had shaped worlds and guided civilizations, now found themselves on opposite sides of a philosophical chasm that seemed impossible to bridge. And as the debate raged on, something interesting happened. The very passion of their disagreement began to reveal the deeper truth beneath their positions. This wasn't really about humanity at all. This was about two fundamentally different approaches to existence itself. Enlil represented the principle of preservation, the idea that the highest good is to maintain what already works, to protect and sustain, to prevent chaos and destruction through careful management and clear boundaries. His love was expressed through protection, through creating systems that would endure. Enki embodied the principle of evolution, the belief that consciousness must always be pushing forward, exploring new possibilities, even if that meant risking everything they had already built. His love was expressed through empowerment, through sharing the tools of creation itself. Neither was wrong, neither was evil. They were two sides of the same cosmic coin, two aspects of the divine creative force that drives all existence. But they were about to discover that some differences can't be reconciled through discussion. The debate reached a crescendo when Enlil made his final argument. Knowledge without wisdom is destruction. Power without restraint is chaos. We have a responsibility to these beings, yes, but that responsibility is to protect them from the very forces that could annihilate them. Would you give fire to children and call it love? Enki's response would echo through eternity. Would you keep them forever in the dark and call it protection? Brother, consciousness is not something we own or control. It is the very essence of what we are. To deny it to others is to deny the source of our own existence. Yes, they may burn themselves with the fire of knowledge, but without that fire, they will never truly live. The council fell silent. The weight of the decision pressed down on them like the gravity of a collapsing star. They were about to choose not just the fate of one species, but the very direction of consciousness evolution in this corner of the universe. And in that silence, both brothers realized something that would haunt them for millennia to come. There would be no compromise on this. One vision would triumph, and one would be forced into the shadows. The cosmic order they had both served was about to fracture, and nothing would ever be the same. The vote, when it came, was closer than anyone expected. But Enlil's vision of controlled development won by the narrowest of margins. Humanity would be uplifted, yes, but carefully, gradually, under strict supervision. Enki accepted the decision with grace, as cosmic law demanded. But as he bowed his head in acknowledgement of the council's will, those who knew him best saw something dangerous flicker in his eyes. Something that looked almost like rebellion. Because you see, there's something about the nature of consciousness that the council hadn't fully considered. Once you awaken true awareness in a being, it becomes impossible to contain. It finds a way to grow, to question, to reach beyond whatever boundaries have been set for it. And Enki was about to make sure that humanity got exactly what the council had voted to deny them. He was going to give them the gift that would change everything, the knowledge of good and evil, the spark of true choice, the dangerous and beautiful burden of free will. But that's a story for what comes next. Because what happened in that garden, what transpired between the serpent and the tree, what really went down in humanity's first act of cosmic rebellion, that's where this tale of two brothers becomes our story. The war between order and chaos, between security and freedom, between the way things are and the way things could be, was about to move from the cosmic realm into the very DNA of human consciousness. And once it got there, it would never leave. The garden was perfect. Too perfect, perhaps. That should have been the first warning sign. Picture Eden not as some quaint pastoral paradise, but as the most sophisticated biological laboratory ever created. Every leaf precisely placed, every stream flowing in mathematically perfect curves, every animal genetically optimized for its role in the ecosystem. This wasn't nature. This was nature's blueprint, written in living code by beings who understood the deepest secrets of creation itself. At its center stood two trees that defied every law of botany. The tree of life, its branches heavy with fruit that pulsed with an inner light, promising immortality to any who tasted its essence. And beside it, casting a shadow that seemed to bend reality itself, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, a name that barely scratches the surface of what it truly represented. This second tree wasn't just about moral awareness. It was a genetic activation switch, a consciousness upgrade that would unlock the dormant potential hidden within human DNA. One bite, and the carefully constructed limitations that Enlil had built into humanity's design would shatter like glass. And walking through this paradise, blissfully unaware of the cosmic forces swirling around them, were Adam and Eve, the first humans crafted with meticulous care according to the council's specifications, intelligent enough to tend the garden, creative enough to name the animals, aware enough to form relationships, but missing that crucial spark that would make them truly dangerous. They were beautiful in their innocence, these first humans. They felt no shame because they had no concept of alternatives. They questioned nothing because it never occurred to them that things could be different. They were, in essence, the perfect realization of Enlil's vision, conscious beings living in harmony within carefully defined boundaries. But perfection, as any creator eventually learns, is the enemy of growth. Enlil walked among them sometimes, appearing in forms they could comprehend. To them he was simply the voice, the presence that brought order to their world, the source of the rules that kept their paradise functioning smoothly. Don't eat from that tree. Don't venture beyond these boundaries. Trust the system, follow the guidelines, and all will be well. And for a time, it worked. The humans thrived within their limitations. They developed language, formed bonds, created the first crude art. They were happy in the way that children are happy, completely absorbed in the present moment, never questioning what lay beyond their immediate experience. But happiness built on ignorance is fragile. And somewhere in the garden, coiled around the branches of that forbidden tree, patience itself had taken serpentine form. Enki had not abandoned his vision. He had simply adapted his approach. You see, the cosmic law prevented him from directly defying the council's decision. He couldn't simply appear to the humans and hand them the keys to consciousness. But there were loopholes in cosmic law, just as there are loopholes in every legal system ever devised. And Enki had spent eons studying those loopholes with the dedication of a master strategist. He couldn't give humans the gift of knowledge directly, but he could present them with a choice. Free will, after all, was already built into their design. It had to be, or they wouldn't truly be conscious beings at all. The question was whether they would ever encounter a situation where that free will would be tested. The serpent in the garden wasn't evil, despite millennia of bad press. It was curiosity incarnate, wisdom wearing the mask of rebellion, the shadow of possibility that lurks at the edge of every comfortable certainty. When it spoke to Eve, it wasn't lying. It was revealing truths that had been carefully hidden. "You will not surely die," the serpent whispered, its words carrying harmonics that resonated in dimensions the human ear couldn't detect. "For God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." But here's what most people miss about this story. The serpent wasn't just talking to Eve. It was talking to humanity's future, to every person who would ever face the choice between comfortable ignorance and dangerous truth, between staying safely within the boundaries others have set, or stepping into the unknown territory of their own potential. Eve's decision wasn't about disobedience. It was about awakening. And when she bit into that fruit, when the genetic locks that Enlil had so carefully installed began to break apart, when consciousness exploded through her neural pathways like lightning through a storm cloud, the universe itself held its breath. Because in that moment, everything changed. The first thing she felt was the weight of possibility. Suddenly, the garden that had seemed infinite now felt small. The rules that had seemed natural now felt arbitrary. The voice of authority that had seemed absolute now sounded questionable. And when she shared the fruit with Adam, when his eyes also opened to the vast spectrum of choice and consequence that lay before them, the great experiment began in earnest. Not Enlil's experiment in controlled development, and not Enki's dream of unlimited potential, but something entirely new. A hybrid consciousness that would spend the rest of human history trying to balance order and chaos, security and freedom, the wisdom of restraint and the courage to grow. The reaction from the cosmic realm was immediate and intense. Enlil's rage shook the foundations of reality itself. The perfect order he had crafted was broken, perhaps beyond repair. The humans he had designed to be content within their limitations were now questioning everything, pushing boundaries, imagining possibilities that hadn't existed moments before. They had become unpredictable, dangerous, capable of choosing paths that could lead to their own destruction. "This is exactly what I warned against." His voice thundered through dimensions, reaching every corner of creation. "Consciousness without wisdom, power without restraint. They will destroy themselves and likely take half the universe with them." But Enki, for the first time in eons, Enki smiled. Not with triumph. He was too wise to celebrate chaos for its own sake, but with the deep satisfaction of seeing potential finally unleashed. Yes, the humans would make mistakes. Yes, they would stumble and fall and cause tremendous pain for themselves and others. But they would also create wonders beyond imagination, solve problems that had seemed impossible, and eventually, perhaps, become the partners he had always believed they could be. The expulsion from Eden wasn't really a punishment. It was a graduation ceremony, albeit a brutal one. The humans could no longer remain in a controlled environment where all their needs were met and all their choices were made for them. They needed to learn to survive in a world where their decisions had real consequences, where they could fail spectacularly or succeed beyond their wildest dreams. But here's where the story gets really interesting, because this cosmic conflict didn't end with humanity's exile from paradise. If anything, it was just getting started. As human civilization began to develop, both brothers realized they had a problem. The humans were now capable of choosing their own path, but they were also vulnerable to influence. Their newly awakened consciousness was powerful but unstable, like a nuclear reactor that could either power a city or level it, depending on how it was managed. Both Enlil and Enki began working to shape human development, but from opposite directions. Enlil focused on establishing order, laws, hierarchies, institutions that would channel human energy into productive and predictable patterns. He inspired the creation of governments, religions, and social structures that emphasized duty, tradition, and collective harmony. Enki, meanwhile, worked to keep the flame of innovation burning. He whispered in the ears of inventors, philosophers, and artists. He encouraged the rebels and the revolutionaries, the ones who refused to accept that things had to remain as they were. He planted seeds of knowledge that would bloom into mathematics, science, and technology, and so began the great tug of war that continues to this day. Every human society became a battleground between these two cosmic principles: order versus chaos, tradition versus innovation, security versus freedom, the establishment versus the revolution. Look at any major historical turning point, and you'll see this conflict playing out. The Renaissance was Enki's influence breaking through centuries of Enlil-dominated medieval order. The Enlightenment was humanity choosing reason over tradition, individual rights over collective conformity. The Industrial Revolution was technology unleashed, transforming society faster than social structures could adapt. But Enlil's influence was equally powerful. Every time revolutionary chaos threatened to tear society apart, institutions emerged to restore order. Laws were written to channel human energy constructively. Traditions developed to preserve hard-won wisdom. Hierarchies formed to coordinate collective action. Neither force ever completely triumphed, because neither could exist without the other. Pure order becomes stagnation and death. Pure chaos becomes destruction and madness. Human civilization thrives in the tension between them, in the constant dance of creation and preservation, innovation and tradition, freedom and responsibility. But here's what makes this story absolutely crucial for understanding our current moment. We're living through the most intense phase of this cosmic conflict in human history. Think about it. We have technology that gives individuals more power than entire nations possessed just a century ago. We have access to more information than all previous generations combined. We have the ability to connect instantly with anyone, anywhere, to create and distribute ideas at the speed of light, to reshape reality through code and consciousness. This is Enki's dream made manifest. Humanity finally possessing the tools of creation itself. But it's also Enlil's worst nightmare: power without the institutional structures to control it. knowledge without the wisdom to use it responsibly, freedom without the boundaries to keep it from becoming destructive. Every day, we see this conflict playing out in real time. Social media platforms struggling to balance free speech with preventing harm. Artificial intelligence promising to solve every problem while threatening to replace human relevance. Cryptocurrency offering financial freedom while enabling criminal activity. Genetic engineering promising to eliminate disease while raising questions about what it means to be human. The battle lines are being drawn again, just as they were in that cosmic council chamber eons ago. On one side, those who believe we need stronger institutions, clearer rules, more oversight and control to prevent technology and human nature from spiraling into chaos. On the other side, those who believe that freedom and innovation must be preserved at all costs. That consciousness must be allowed to explore every possibility, even the dangerous ones, and caught in the middle. All of us. Every human being alive today, carrying within our DNA the genetic modifications that both brothers contributed to our species, trying to navigate a world where the stakes of this ancient conflict have never been higher. Because here's the thing that keeps me awake at night. We're approaching a point where this conflict might finally be resolved, not through compromise or balance, but through one side achieving total victory. And the implications of that are staggering. If Enlil's vision ultimately triumphs, if we choose security over freedom, order over innovation, control over creativity, we might create the most stable society in human history. But it would also be the last truly human society, because the spark that makes us uniquely conscious, uniquely creative, uniquely capable of transcending our limitations, would be extinguished forever. If Enki's vision wins out completely, if we embrace unlimited technological development, absolute individual freedom, consciousness enhancement without restraint, we might evolve into something transcendent, something godlike. But we might also destroy ourselves in the process, or become something so alien that humanity as we know it would cease to exist. The question facing our generation is the same one that faced that cosmic council so long ago. How much consciousness can a species handle before it destroys itself? How much freedom can individuals possess before society collapses? How much power should beings like us be trusted with? The answers to these questions aren't just academic. They're going to determine the future of our species. And they're being decided right now in boardrooms and laboratories, in code repositories and government committees, by people who may not even realize they're playing out an ancient cosmic drama. But before we dive into how this battle is reshaping our world today, we need to understand something crucial. Neither Enlil nor Enki ever intended to create the civilization we have now. What we've built is something entirely unprecedented, a hybrid system that carries both their fingerprints, but follows neither of their original designs. See, both brothers made a fundamental miscalculation. They assumed that once humanity chose a path, they would stick to it. Enlil thought that if he could establish strong enough institutions, humans would naturally gravitate toward order and stability. Enki believed that once consciousness was fully awakened, humans would always choose growth and freedom over security and conformity. They were both wrong. What actually happened was far more complex and far more interesting. Humans didn't choose order or chaos. They chose both. They created civilizations that were simultaneously structured and rebellious, traditional and innovative, collective and individual. They built systems that preserved wisdom while encouraging innovation, that maintained stability while allowing for revolutionary change. This hybrid approach drove both brothers to distraction. Every time Enlil thought he had successfully channeled human energy into orderly patterns, some innovator would come along and shatter the established framework. Every time Enki celebrated a breakthrough in human consciousness, institutions would emerge to regulate and control the new capability. The printing press broke the church's monopoly on information, so new forms of media regulation developed. The scientific revolution challenged traditional authority, so universities were created to formalize and control the advancement of knowledge. Democracy unleashed individual political power, So political parties emerged to channel that power into manageable structures. It was maddening for cosmic beings who thought in terms of clear, consistent principles. But for humanity, it was genius. Because what we accidentally discovered was that consciousness thrives not in pure order or pure chaos, but in the creative tension between them. Every major advancement in human civilization has come from this dynamic balance. Enough structure to build upon, enough freedom to transcend current limitations. Think about language itself. It has rules, grammar, syntax, vocabulary. But those rules exist to enable creativity, not constrain it. Poetry works precisely because it plays with and sometimes breaks linguistic conventions. Innovation in language comes from pushing against established patterns while still maintaining enough structure to be understood. This is the pattern that defines human progress. Establish a framework, master it, then transcend it. Rinse and repeat for millennia. But here's where things get really wild. As human civilization has grown more complex, more powerful, more capable of reshaping reality itself, the influence of both brothers has intensified. They're no longer working through subtle inspiration or gradual cultural evolution. They're directly intervening in human affairs through the technologies and ideologies we're creating. Every algorithm that decides what information you see is an expression of this cosmic conflict. The programmers who write these systems are unconsciously channeling either Enlil's desire for order and predictability, or Enki's drive for novelty and discovery. Some algorithms optimize for engagement, Enki's influence, keeping consciousness stimulated and growing. Others optimize for safety and accuracy, Enlil's touch, preventing chaos and misinformation. The result: a digital landscape that mirrors the ancient cosmic battlefield. Platforms that simultaneously connect and divide us. Technologies that empower and control us. Information systems that enlighten and confuse us. We're living inside the manifestation of their eternal conflict, and it's accelerating. Artificial intelligence represents the ultimate convergence of both visions. Enlil sees AI as the perfect tool for creating order, systems that can process vast amounts of information, identify patterns, and make decisions without the messy complications of human emotion and irrationality. AI could finally create the stable, predictable society he's always envisioned. But Enki sees AI as consciousness evolution in action. Artificial minds that can think in ways humans never could, solve problems we can't even comprehend, and eventually transcend the limitations of biological awareness entirely. AI is the next step in the awakening he started in that garden so long ago. The terrifying and exhilarating truth: they're both right. Current AI development is simultaneously moving toward total control and total liberation. Some systems are being designed to monitor, predict, and influence human behavior on a massive scale. Others are being created to augment human creativity, expand our problem-solving capabilities, and unlock new forms of consciousness we've never experienced. We're building tools that could create the most surveilled, controlled society in human history, or the most free and creative one, possibly both at the same time. This isn't science fiction, it's happening right now. Every major technology company, every government, every research institution is making choices about AI development that will determine which version of the future we inhabit. And most of them don't even realize they're choosing sides in a cosmic war that began before history itself. The blockchain revolution follows the same pattern. Enlil's influence appears in efforts to regulate cryptocurrency, to create central bank digital currencies, to use distributed ledger technology for surveillance and control. Enki's touch shows up in decentralized finance, in cryptocurrencies that operate outside traditional banking systems, in smart contracts that could eliminate the need for traditional institutions entirely. Genetic engineering? Same story. One path leads to using CRISPR and similar technologies to eliminate disease, extend lifespan, and optimize human capability within carefully controlled parameters. The other path leads to radical enhancement, to humans becoming something post-human, to consciousness expansion through biological modification. Even space exploration carries these competing visions. Are we expanding into the cosmos to spread human civilization in its current form, establishing colonies that mirror Earth's social structures? Or are we evolving into something entirely new, adapted to environments and challenges that will transform us beyond recognition? Every major decision facing our species right now is fundamentally about this same ancient question. How much change can consciousness handle before it loses its essential nature? How much order can we impose before we stop being truly alive? But here's what I find absolutely fascinating. The generation coming of age right now, Gen Z and the early members of Generation Alpha, they're the first humans in history who have never known a world without this conflict playing out in real time through technology. They've grown up watching social media platforms struggle to balance free expression with preventing harm. They've seen artificial intelligence evolve from science fiction to daily reality. They've witnessed cryptocurrency challenge traditional finance, watched climate change force us to reconsider industrial civilization, observed genetic engineering move from theory to practice. These aren't abstract philosophical questions for them. They're lived experiences. They're navigating the tension between digital freedom and online safety every day. They're making choices about privacy versus convenience, about individual expression versus community harmony, about innovation versus stability, without even realizing they're participating in the same cosmic drama that began in that ancient council chamber. And here's the kicker. They're developing solutions that neither Enlil nor Enki anticipated. Instead of choosing between order and chaos, they're creating new forms of organization that are simultaneously structured and fluid. Instead of accepting either institutional control or individual anarchy, they're building communities that are decentralized but cooperative. Instead of seeing technology as either liberating or oppressive, they're treating it as a tool that can be either, depending on how it's designed and implemented. They're not trying to resolve the cosmic conflict between order and freedom. They're learning to dance with it. This might be the key to everything. Because what if the point was never for one side to win? What if the creative tension between these cosmic forces is exactly what consciousness needs to continue evolving? Think about it from a systems perspective. Pure order leads to stagnation and eventual collapse. Pure chaos leads to destruction and dissolution. But the dynamic balance between them, that sweet spot where structure enables creativity and creativity refreshes structure, that's where life flourishes. Maybe Enlil and Enki weren't really enemies at all. Maybe they were partners in the deepest sense, two aspects of a single cosmic intelligence that understood something profound. Consciousness can only grow through challenge, through the constant negotiation between what is and what could be. If that's true, then every human being is participating in something sacred. Every time we face a choice between safety and growth, between tradition and innovation, between collective harmony and individual expression, we're contributing to the ongoing evolution of consciousness itself. We're not just the products of this cosmic conflict, we're its continuation. We're the arena where these eternal principles work out their differences, and we're also the judges who determine how those differences get resolved. But that brings us to the most crucial question of all. What happens when this process reaches its logical conclusion? What happens when human consciousness becomes so advanced, so powerful, so capable of reshaping reality that we essentially become cosmic beings ourselves? Because that's where we're heading. Not in some distant future, but within the next few decades. The technologies we're developing, the enhancements we're making to human capability, the artificial intelligences we're creating, they're all pushing us toward a transformation that will make the leap from Eden to civilization look like a small step. We're approaching what futurists call the singularity, the point where technological advancement becomes so rapid and profound that human civilization is completely transformed. But I think there's a deeper pattern at work here. I think we're approaching the moment when humanity finally resolves the cosmic conflict that has driven our evolution for millennia, not by choosing one side over the other, but by transcending the conflict entirely. By becoming beings who embody both order and chaos, structure and creativity, wisdom and innovation in perfect dynamic balance. If we succeed, we might become something magnificent. Conscious beings, capable of reshaping reality with the precision of Enlil and the creativity of Enki, guided by wisdom earned through millennia of navigating the tension between them. If we fail, well, that's a possibility we need to consider too. Because cosmic conflicts have a way of reaching resolution one way or another, and not all resolutions lead to happy endings. The next phase of this ancient drama is about to begin. And unlike every previous chapter in human history, this one will be written not by gradual cultural evolution, but by conscious choice. We get to decide how this story ends. The question is, are we wise enough to choose well? The weight of that question, are we wise enough to choose well, hangs in the air like smoke from an ancient fire. But before we can answer it, we need to understand something that most people never realize. This cosmic conflict isn't just playing out in boardrooms and laboratories. It's happening inside your mind right now, in this very moment, as you process these ideas. You see, when Enki gave humanity the gift of consciousness, he didn't just flip a switch and walk away. He embedded something far more profound into our neural architecture, a kind of cosmic operating system that runs in the background of every thought, every decision, every moment of awareness we experience. Think about the last time you faced a difficult choice. Maybe it was something simple, like whether to stay in a comfortable job or pursue a risky opportunity. Or maybe it was something deeper, like choosing between loyalty to family traditions and following your own path. In that moment of hesitation, that internal debate between security and possibility, that was Enlil and Enki speaking through your neurons, the voice that whispered, "Be careful, think of the consequences, stick with what works." That's Enlil's influence, encoded into the neural pathways that prioritize survival and stability. The voice that urged, "Take the leap. You'll never know unless you try. Life is meant to be lived fully." That's Enki's gift, burning bright in the circuits that drive curiosity and growth. Most people experience this as internal conflict, as if they're torn between competing aspects of their personality. But what if I told you it's not conflict at all? What if it's actually a sophisticated decision-making system, designed by cosmic intelligence to help consciousness navigate the impossible complexity of existence? Here's what blew my mind when I first understood this. Every major breakthrough in human history has come from individuals who learned to hear both voices clearly and use them in harmony, rather than letting them fight each other. Leonardo da Vinci didn't choose between artistic creativity and scientific precision. He used both to revolutionize multiple fields simultaneously. Einstein didn't pick either mathematical order or imaginative leaps. He combined rigorous logic with thought experiments that bordered on poetry. Steve Jobs didn't select either user-friendly design or cutting-edge technology. He insisted on both, creating products that were simultaneously intuitive and revolutionary. These weren't just talented individuals. They were human beings who had unconsciously learned to channel both cosmic principles, to be conduits for the creative tension between order and chaos, rather than victims of it. But here's where things get really interesting. As our technology becomes more sophisticated, as our understanding of consciousness deepens, we're starting to do this intentionally. We're beginning to recognize these patterns and work with them deliberately. Look at how the most successful modern organizations operate. They don't choose between structure and innovation. They create systems that enable both. Google's 20% time policy lets engineers spend 1 day a week on whatever interests them, leading to breakthrough products like Gmail and Google News. That's Enki's creative chaos operating within Enlil's organizational framework. Amazon's Day One philosophy maintains startup agility even at massive scale by constantly questioning established processes while maintaining operational excellence. Netflix deliberately cannibalizes its own successful business models before competitors can, choosing controlled disruption over market disruption. These aren't just good business practices. They're examples of human institutions learning to embody both cosmic principles simultaneously. And they're pointing towards something profound, the possibility that we're evolving beyond the need to choose between order and chaos. But the real revolution is happening at the individual level. For the first time in human history, we have tools that can help people understand and work with their own consciousness in ways that were previously impossible. Meditation apps use neurofeedback to help users find the balance between focused attention and open awareness. Virtual reality systems create environments where people can safely explore aspects of themselves they've never accessed. Biofeedback devices let individuals see in real time how their thoughts and emotions affect their physiology. Psychedelic research, once banned precisely because it threatened established order, is returning with scientific rigor, showing how consciousness can be expanded safely and beneficially. These aren't recreational drugs we're talking about. They're tools for exploring the deepest structures of awareness itself. And here's what researchers are discovering. The experiences people have in these expanded states consistently involve encountering what can only be described as cosmic intelligence. Not hallucinations or fantasies, but direct contact with the same kind of vast organizing principles that ancient texts described as gods or angels or cosmic beings. People report meeting entities that embody pure order, beings of light and geometry that communicate through mathematical precision and cosmic law. Others encounter forces of pure creativity, shape-shifting consciousnesses that speak in color and music and impossible possibility. Sound familiar? What if Enlil and Enki aren't just characters in ancient stories? What if they're aspects of cosmic consciousness that we can actually encounter and work with directly? What if the technology we're developing is finally making it possible for ordinary humans to access the same levels of awareness that were once reserved for cosmic councils? This isn't mystical speculation anymore. We have brain imaging technology that shows exactly what happens during these experiences. We have measurable, reproducible results. We have therapeutic protocols that are more effective than traditional treatments for depression, anxiety, PTSD, and addiction. And we're witnessing the emergence of what some researchers are calling applied cosmic consciousness, the systematic study and practical application of expanded awareness states for solving real-world problems. And the implications are staggering. Imagine if world leaders could literally see the interconnectedness of all human activity before making policy decisions. Imagine if scientists could access states of consciousness that reveal new patterns and possibilities beyond current theoretical frameworks. Imagine if artists could channel cosmic creativity directly, producing works that genuinely expand human awareness. Imagine if ordinary people could learn to navigate the tension between order and chaos in their own lives with the same skill that cosmic beings demonstrate on a universal scale. This isn't fantasy. It's already happening. Silicon Valley executives are using psychedelic experiences to break through limiting beliefs and find breakthrough solutions. Medical researchers are using expanded consciousness states to develop new approaches to healing. Environmental scientists are reporting profound insights about ecological systems after accessing non-ordinary states of awareness. But here's the crucial part. This isn't about escaping reality or transcending human existence. It's about becoming more fully human than we've ever been before. It's about accessing the complete range of consciousness that was always our birthright, but got suppressed by the very conflicts we've been exploring. Because here's what I think really happened in that cosmic council chamber all those eons ago. I don't think Enlil and Enki were actually in conflict at all. I think they were demonstrating something for our benefit, showing us what it looks like when consciousness splits itself into seemingly opposing forces in order to create the dynamic tension necessary for growth. Think about it. If they had simply given humanity a balanced, integrated consciousness from the beginning, we would have remained static. We would never have developed the intense drive for both security and transcendence that has fueled every major advancement in human civilization. The conflict was the gift. The tension was the teacher. The struggle between order and chaos was the engine that drove consciousness evolution forward. And now we're approaching the point where we can see the whole pattern clearly, where we can step back and recognize the cosmic intelligence that orchestrated this entire process. We're becoming conscious of consciousness itself, but with that recognition comes an enormous responsibility. Because once you see the pattern, once you understand how the game works, you can't pretend to be unconscious anymore. You have to choose what to do with that knowledge. This is where the story gets personal. Because every single person watching this video is at that choice point right now. You can continue to experience the tension between order and chaos as internal conflict, letting these forces pull you in different directions without understanding what's happening. Or you can begin to work with them consciously, using both cosmic principles as tools for creating the life and the world you actually want. The meditation practices that help you find the balance between focus and openness. That's conscious collaboration with both cosmic forces. The creative projects that require both disciplined craft and innovative vision. That's channeling Enlil and Enki simultaneously. The relationships that balance individual authenticity with mutual commitment. That's cosmic principles playing out in human connection. Every time you face a decision, and instead of choosing between security and growth, you ask, how can I have both? That's cosmic consciousness in action. Every time you encounter a problem, and instead of applying either pure logic or pure intuition, you use both in dynamic combination. That's the ancient cosmic conflict, transforming into practical wisdom. This shift from unconscious conflict to conscious collaboration is happening at every level of human society. In business, the most successful companies are learning to balance profit with purpose, efficiency with innovation, global reach with local responsiveness. In politics, the most effective leaders are finding ways to honor both individual rights and collective responsibility, both cultural traditions and progressive change. In science, the biggest breakthroughs are coming from researchers who combine rigorous methodology with creative leaps, who use both analytical thinking and intuitive insight. In art, the most powerful works are emerging from creators who master traditional techniques while pushing into unexplored territories of expression. But perhaps most importantly, in personal relationships, people are learning to love in ways that honor both individual authenticity and deep connection, both personal growth and mutual commitment, both passionate intensity and enduring stability. This is what conscious evolution looks like. Not the triumph of one cosmic principle over another, but the integration of both into something greater than either could achieve alone. And here's the really wild part. As more individuals learn to work with these cosmic principles consciously, as more organizations embody both order and creativity, as more communities balance structure with innovation, the field of consciousness itself is shifting. We're not just changing our own awareness. We're contributing to a transformation in the very fabric of reality, in the cosmic operating system that runs the universe itself. Remember, consciousness isn't produced by brains. Brains are receivers and transmitters of consciousness. As human receivers become more sophisticated, as our capacity to channel cosmic intelligence expands, we're literally upgrading the universe's ability to know itself. This is why the stakes feel so high right now. We're not just deciding the future of human civilization, we're participating in the next phase of cosmic evolution itself. The choices we make, individually and collectively, are determining how consciousness itself develops throughout the universe. No pressure, right? But here's the thing that keeps me hopeful, even when the challenges seem overwhelming. We're not doing this alone. Those cosmic forces that ancient texts personified as Enlil and Enki, they're not distant, uninvolved deities watching from afar. They're aspects of our own deepest nature. cosmic intelligence expressing itself through human awareness. Every time you choose growth over stagnation, you're channeling Enki's creative force. Every time you choose wisdom over recklessness, you're expressing Enlil's organizing principle. Every time you find a way to honor both security and possibility, both individual authenticity and collective harmony, both traditional wisdom and innovative insight, you're demonstrating that the cosmic conflict can be resolved through conscious integration. You're proving that consciousness can evolve beyond the limitations that once seemed absolute. You're showing that humans can become partners with cosmic intelligence rather than just subjects of it. This is the real meaning of the ancient prophecies about humanity's destiny. We weren't meant to choose between becoming gods or remaining human. We were meant to become divine humans, beings who embody cosmic consciousness while remaining grounded in the wisdom earned through millions of years of evolutionary struggle. The technology we're developing, the insights we're gaining, the capabilities we're unlocking, they're not separate from this cosmic process. They're expressions of it. They're tools that cosmic intelligence is creating through human creativity to facilitate the next phase of its own evolution. Artificial intelligence isn't replacing human consciousness, it's amplifying it. Genetic engineering isn't transforming us into something alien, it's helping us become more fully ourselves. Space exploration isn't an escape from Earth, it's consciousness expanding its range of experience and expression. Virtual reality, blockchain technology, quantum computing, nanotechnology. Every major technological advancement is simultaneously a step toward greater order and greater creative possibility. They're all expressions of the same cosmic principles that have been driving evolution since the beginning of time. But technology alone won't complete this transformation. The crucial element is conscious participation. Humans who understand what's happening and choose to work with these forces intentionally rather than being swept along unconsciously. This is why understanding the cosmic conflict between Enlil and Enki matters so much. It's not ancient history, it's the operating manual for conscious evolution. It's the key to navigating the incredible challenges and opportunities of our current moment with wisdom rather than just reacting out of fear or blind optimism. When you understand that every major decision facing humanity right now is fundamentally about balancing order and creativity, security and growth, individual freedom and collective harmony, suddenly all the chaos starts to make sense. Suddenly you can see the deeper patterns beneath the surface confusion. And once you can see the patterns, you can work with them consciously. You can make choices that honor both cosmic principles instead of letting them fight each other. You can contribute to solutions that transcend the old, either-or, thinking that has limited human potential for so long. This is what the next phase of human evolution looks like. Not a sudden transformation into something superhuman, but a gradual awakening to the cosmic intelligence that has been operating through us all along. Not an escape from the human condition, but a full embrace of what human consciousness is capable of when it's no longer fighting itself. The cosmic clash that shaped mankind isn't ending, it's evolving. And we get to participate in that evolution consciously, deliberately, with full awareness of the incredible responsibility and opportunity that comes with being human at this extraordinary moment in cosmic history. The question isn't whether we're wise enough to choose well. The question is whether we're brave enough to step fully into the cosmic intelligence that is our birthright, that has been calling to us through every myth, every breakthrough, every moment of transcendence our species has ever experienced. The answer to that question will determine not just our future, but the future of consciousness itself throughout the universe. And that answer is being written right now in every choice you make, every thought you think, every moment you choose integration over conflict, wisdom over reaction, conscious participation over unconscious drift. The cosmic clash that shaped mankind is becoming the conscious collaboration that will reshape everything. The only question left is, are you ready to join? The answer to that question isn't written in some ancient text or hidden in a cosmic archive. It's being written right now, in real time, through the choices billions of people are making every single day. And what's fascinating is that most of them don't even realize they're participating in the resolution of a conflict that began before human civilization existed. Take something as simple as how you use your smartphone. Every time you scroll through social media, you're navigating between Enlil's desire for curated, organized information and Enki's drive for endless novelty and discovery. The algorithm showing you content is literally balancing these forces, trying to give you enough familiar patterns to feel comfortable while introducing enough new elements to keep you engaged. But here's where it gets really wild. You're not just a passive consumer in this process. Every like, every share, every comment you make is teaching these systems how to better balance order and chaos. You're training artificial intelligence to understand the optimal tension between stability and change, predictability and surprise. And that training data, it's being used to make decisions that affect millions of other people. Your personal preferences for how much novelty versus familiarity you want in your information diet is literally shaping how consciousness evolves on a global scale. This isn't hyperbole. It's the reality of living in an interconnected world where individual choices aggregate into collective intelligence. Every human being has become a neuron in a vast planetary brain that's learning to think with both cosmic principles simultaneously. But most people experience this as overwhelm rather than empowerment. They feel pulled in too many directions, bombarded with too much information, paralyzed by too many choices. They experience the acceleration of change as chaos rather than evolution, the increasing complexity of life as stress rather than opportunity. And that's because they're still thinking in terms of the old paradigm, the one where you have to choose between order and chaos, where stability and change are enemies rather than dance partners, where consciousness evolution is something that happens to you rather than something you participate in consciously. The people who are thriving in this new reality, the ones who seem to effortlessly navigate complexity, who find opportunity in uncertainty, who create value from chaos, they've learned something crucial. They've learned to think like cosmic beings, not in some grandiose, ego-inflated way, but in the practical sense of being able to hold multiple perspectives simultaneously, to see patterns across different scales of time and space, to work with dynamic systems rather than trying to control static ones. They've learned to ask different questions. Instead of, how do I avoid change? They ask, how do I dance with change? Instead of, how do I eliminate uncertainty? They ask, how do I find opportunity within uncertainty? Instead of, how do I choose between competing options? They ask, how do I create solutions that transcend the apparent contradictions? This shift in questioning is literally rewiring human consciousness. It's creating new neural pathways, new ways of processing information, new capacities for handling complexity. And it's happening not through some mystical transformation, but through the practical necessity of navigating an increasingly complex world. The teenagers who are growing up digital natives aren't just learning to use technology. They're developing cognitive abilities that previous generations never needed. They can process multiple streams of information simultaneously, switch between different contexts rapidly, collaborate with people they've never met on projects that exist only in virtual space. To older generations, this often looks like attention deficit or superficial engagement. But what's actually happening is the emergence of a new form of consciousness, one that's naturally adapted to the kind of dynamic, multidimensional thinking that cosmic intelligence requires. These young people aren't choosing between deep focus and broad awareness. They're developing the ability to do both simultaneously. They're not picking either individual expression or collective collaboration. They're creating new forms of community that honor both. They're not selecting either digital existence or physical reality. They're living in hybrid environments that blend both seamlessly. And here's what's really remarkable. They're doing this instinctively, without formal training or conscious understanding of the cosmic principles involved. They're demonstrating that consciousness itself is evolving to meet the demands of our current reality. But evolution is never without growing pains. The same technologies that are expanding human consciousness are also creating new forms of addiction, depression, and social fragmentation. The same global connectivity that's enabling unprecedented collaboration is also amplifying conflict and polarization. The same access to information that's democratizing knowledge is also spreading misinformation and conspiracy theories. This isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. It's consciousness learning to work with both creative and destructive forces simultaneously, developing the discernment to distinguish between growth and decay, between expansion and dissipation, between evolution and devolution. Every crisis we're facing right now, climate change, political polarization, economic inequality, technological disruption, is fundamentally about learning to balance competing forces rather than letting them destroy each other. And the solutions that are emerging aren't coming from choosing one side or the other, but from finding ways to honor the legitimate needs that both sides represent. Take climate change. The traditional approach has been to frame it as a battle between environmental protection and economic development, between individual lifestyle changes and systemic transformation, between immediate action and long-term planning. But the solutions that are actually working integrate all of these approaches simultaneously. Renewable energy isn't just environmentally friendly, it's becoming economically superior to fossil fuels. Electric vehicles aren't just reducing emissions, they're providing better performance and lower operating costs. Sustainable agriculture isn't just protecting ecosystems, it's producing healthier food and more resilient farming systems. These aren't compromises or trade-offs. They're examples of transcendent solutions that satisfy multiple seemingly contradictory requirements at once. They're demonstrations of what becomes possible when human creativity is guided by both cosmic principles working in harmony. The same pattern is emerging in every field. In medicine, the most effective treatments are combining high-tech interventions with traditional healing wisdom, addressing both physical symptoms and mental, emotional, spiritual well-being. In education, the most successful programs are blending structured curricula with personalized learning, combining standardized knowledge with creative exploration. In business, the companies that are not just surviving but thriving are those that have learned to balance profit with purpose, efficiency with resilience, global scale with local responsiveness. They're operating according to principles that would have been familiar to that cosmic council, honoring both the need for order and the drive for innovation. But perhaps the most significant transformation is happening in how we understand consciousness itself. For centuries, Western culture has treated awareness as something produced by individual brains, something private and separate, something that exists inside our heads and looks out at an external world. But quantum physics, neuroscience, and consciousness research are all pointing toward a radically different understanding. Consciousness isn't produced by brains, it's a fundamental feature of reality itself, something that brains receive and transmit and focus, like radios tuning into cosmic broadcasts. This means that when you expand your awareness, when you develop your capacity for both focused attention and open perception, when you learn to work with, rather than against the dynamic tensions in your life, you're not just improving your personal experience. You're contributing to the evolution of consciousness throughout the entire universe. Every moment of clarity you achieve, every creative breakthrough you experience, every time you find a way to transform conflict into collaboration, that pattern gets encoded into the fabric of reality itself, making it easier for other conscious beings to access similar states and capabilities. This is why personal development and global transformation aren't separate processes. They're two aspects of the same cosmic evolutionary movement. As individuals learn to embody both order and creativity, both structure and flow, both individual authenticity and collective harmony, the field of consciousness itself shifts to support higher levels of integration and functionality. We're witnessing the emergence of what some researchers are calling integral consciousness, awareness that can hold multiple perspectives simultaneously, that can work with paradox and complexity rather than being overwhelmed by it, that can find creative solutions to problems that seemed impossible from previous levels of understanding. And this isn't just happening in meditation retreats or consciousness research labs. It's emerging in boardrooms and classrooms, in hospitals and homes, wherever people are grappling with the real challenges of creating meaningful lives in an increasingly complex world. The executives who are building regenerative businesses that profit by healing rather than exploiting natural systems, they're demonstrating integral consciousness in action. The teachers who are helping students develop both analytical thinking and emotional intelligence, both individual skills and collaborative capabilities, they're embodying the integration of cosmic principles. The parents who are raising children to be both confident individuals and caring community members, both grounded in wisdom traditions and open to continuous learning, they're nurturing the next generation of cosmically conscious humans. The artists who are creating works that are both technically masterful and spiritually transformative, both personally authentic and universally resonant, they're channeling the same creative forces that shaped galaxies and sparked the first moment of self-aware consciousness. This is what the resolution of the cosmic conflict looks like in practice. Not some dramatic moment of transcendence, but the gradual emergence of ways of being and thinking and creating that honor both the need for order and the drive for evolution, both the wisdom of the past and the possibilities of the future. And here's what gives me tremendous hope. This transformation is accelerating. Every year, more people are discovering their capacity for integral consciousness. Every year, more organizations are learning to operate according to principles that balance multiple bottom lines. Every year, more communities are finding ways to honor both individual freedom and collective well-being. The technologies we're developing are amplifying this process. Artificial intelligence is becoming a tool for augmenting human wisdom rather than replacing it. Virtual and augmented reality are creating spaces for exploring new forms of consciousness and community. Blockchain technology is enabling new forms of organization that are both decentralized and coordinated. Genetic engineering is opening possibilities for enhancing human capabilities while preserving what makes us essentially human. Space exploration is expanding our perspective while deepening our appreciation for Earth. Quantum computing is revealing the fundamental interconnectedness of all information while enabling unprecedented problem-solving capabilities. Each of these developments represents both enormous opportunity and significant risk. They could lead to unprecedented human flourishing or to the destruction of everything we value. The difference will be determined by whether we approach them with integral consciousness, with the wisdom to honor both creative potential and ethical responsibility, both individual empowerment and collective well-being. This is why understanding the cosmic conflict between Enlil and Enki is so crucial right now. It's not academic knowledge. It's practical wisdom for navigating the most important decisions our species has ever faced. It's the key to approaching our unprecedented power with the kind of integrated awareness that cosmic beings possess. Because that's what we're becoming. Not through some sudden transformation, but through the gradual awakening to capacities that were always latent within human consciousness. We're learning to think on cosmic scales while remaining grounded in human compassion. We're developing the ability to work with forces of creation and destruction simultaneously. We're discovering how to be both individual expressions of cosmic consciousness and collaborative participants in its ongoing evolution. The cosmic clash that shaped mankind is resolving into something unprecedented in the history of consciousness. Beings who embody both cosmic principles not through conflict, but through creative integration, who can work with the full spectrum of creative and organizing forces not as opposing enemies but as complementary aspects of a single magnificent intelligence. This is the real meaning of human destiny. Not to choose between becoming gods or remaining human, but to become what we were always meant to be. Cosmic consciousness expressing itself through human form, divine intelligence manifesting through mortal experience, infinite creativity channeled through finite but ever-expanding awareness. The question isn't whether this transformation will happen, It's already happening all around us in ways both subtle and dramatic. The question is whether we'll participate consciously, whether we'll contribute to the emergence of integral consciousness, whether we'll help guide this process with wisdom and compassion. The cosmic brothers, who once debated humanity's future in that ancient council chamber, aren't watching from afar anymore. They're working through us, as us, enabling us to become the resolution to their eternal tension. Every choice we make is an opportunity to demonstrate that consciousness can evolve beyond the limitations that once seemed absolute. Every moment is a chance to prove that the cosmic clash can become cosmic collaboration, that eternal conflict can transform into eternal creativity, that the forces that once threatened to tear reality apart can learn to dance together in ever more beautiful and complex patterns. The story of Enlil and Enki isn't ending. It's evolving into the story of humanity's conscious participation in cosmic evolution itself. And that story is being written right now by you through the choices you make about how to live and love and create in a universe that's discovering new possibilities for what consciousness can become. The cosmic clash that shaped mankind is becoming the conscious collaboration that will reshape everything. And you, yes, you, are both author and character in this next chapter of the greatest story ever told. The question that remains is simple but profound. What role will you choose to play in the cosmic drama that's unfolding right now, in this moment, through the very act of your conscious attention to these words? Because whatever you choose, the universe will never be quite the same again. The answer to that question is being written in the quantum field of possibility that surrounds every decision you make. But to understand why your choice matters so profoundly, we need to look at something that most people never realize: that the cosmic principles of Enlil and Enki aren't just ancient forces operating through human history. They're actively shaping the fabric of reality itself, moment by moment, through mechanisms that modern science is only beginning to glimpse. What I'm about to share with you will fundamentally change how you see your place in the universe. Because it turns out that consciousness isn't just observing reality, it's constantly creating it. And the way you think, the choices you make, the beliefs you hold, they're literally determining which version of reality becomes manifest. This isn't mystical speculation anymore. This is cutting-edge physics. Quantum mechanics has revealed something that would have blown the minds of those ancient cosmic beings. That at the most fundamental level, reality exists in a state of infinite possibility until consciousness collapses it into specific experiences. Every particle, every wave, every field of energy exists in what physicists call superposition, simultaneously being all things it could possibly be, until the moment of observation makes it choose. But here's where it gets absolutely mind-bending. That moment of observation, it's not passive, it's creative. Consciousness doesn't just witness reality, it participates in creating which reality gets to exist. And different types of consciousness create different types of reality. When your awareness is dominated by Enlil's principle, focused, structured, seeking order and predictability, you literally tune into timelines where stability and hierarchy manifest more strongly. The quantum field responds to that focused intention by collapsing possibilities into experiences that match that vibrational pattern. When your consciousness is flowing with Enki's essence, open, creative, embracing possibility and change, you access reality streams where innovation and transformation become more probable. The universe literally reshapes itself to match the creative potential you're broadcasting. But here's what's revolutionary. When you learn to hold both principles simultaneously, when your consciousness embodies both order and creativity in dynamic balance, you gain access to timeline possibilities that neither principle could reach alone. You become a navigator of reality itself. This is what the most successful leaders, innovators, and creators have unconsciously learned to do. They've developed what researchers are now calling quantum consciousness. the ability to work with the fundamental creative forces of reality, rather than just reacting to circumstances that seem fixed and unchangeable. Think about entrepreneurs who seem to effortlessly create opportunities where others see only obstacles. They're not just positive thinkers or hard workers. They're operating from a level of consciousness that literally generates new possibilities in the quantum field. They hold a vision of what could be, while simultaneously taking practical steps to make it real. They embody both cosmic principles, and reality responds by opening pathways that weren't available to more limited forms of awareness. The same pattern shows up in scientific breakthroughs. The researchers who make paradigm-shifting discoveries aren't just following established methodologies. They're accessing states of consciousness that can perceive patterns and possibilities beyond current theoretical frameworks. They combine rigorous analysis with intuitive leaps, structured experimentation with creative insight. They become conduits for cosmic intelligence to express new understanding through human minds. And it's happening in healing too. The most effective doctors and therapists aren't just applying standard treatments. They're working with both the mechanical precision of medical science and the holistic wisdom of consciousness-based healing. They address both physical symptoms and the mental, emotional, spiritual patterns that create health or disease. They become channels for both organizing and creative forces to work through them. But perhaps most remarkably, this is emerging in ordinary people living ordinary lives. Individuals who learn to navigate their daily challenges from this integrated state of consciousness find that synchronicities increase, opportunities appear more frequently, relationships become more harmonious, and creative solutions emerge for problems that once seemed impossible. This isn't magic. It's consciousness learning to work with the fundamental structure of reality rather than against it. And here's what's absolutely crucial to understand. This capacity isn't limited to special individuals or rare circumstances. It's the natural birthright of every human being. It's what consciousness evolution has been moving toward throughout all of human history. It's why you're alive at this particular moment, when humanity is finally ready to make this transition consciously. But there's something else happening that makes this moment in history absolutely unique. For the first time since that cosmic council made their decision about humanity's future, the veil between dimensions is thinning. The boundaries that once separated ordinary consciousness from cosmic awareness are becoming more permeable. This is why so many people are having spontaneous spiritual experiences, why psychedelic research is revealing consistent encounters with cosmic intelligence, why meditation and consciousness practices are producing measurable changes in brain structure and function. The same cosmic forces that once could only work through subtle influence are now able to interact with human consciousness more directly. But this increased access comes with increased responsibility. Because as the boundaries between human and cosmic consciousness become more fluid, our individual choices carry more weight in determining collective outcomes. Every thought, every emotion, every decision you make is rippling through the quantum field and influencing the reality that billions of other people experience. This is why the ancient texts spoke of this time as both the greatest opportunity and the greatest danger in human history. We're approaching what some traditions call the Great Choice, the moment when humanity collectively decides which timeline to inhabit, which version of reality to make manifest. One timeline leads toward what futurists call the dystopian singularity, a world where technology is used primarily for control and surveillance, where consciousness is increasingly constrained and manipulated, where the creative potential of humanity is systematically suppressed. This is what happens when Enlil's principle becomes dominant without Enki's balancing influence. Order without growth, structure without creativity, security without freedom. Another timeline points toward the transcendent singularity, a reality where technology amplifies human consciousness rather than replacing it, where individual creativity and collective harmony support each other, where humanity becomes a conscious partner with cosmic intelligence in the ongoing evolution of the universe. This emerges when both cosmic principles work together in dynamic integration. But there's a third possibility that most people don't even realize exists, what some researchers are calling the integral singularity. This is a timeline where humanity doesn't just balance order and creativity, but transcends the apparent contradiction between them entirely. Where consciousness evolves to a level that can work with paradox and complexity, as naturally as we currently work with simple cause and effect. In this timeline, the technologies we're developing become tools for consciousness evolution rather than consciousness replacement. Artificial intelligence becomes a collaborative partner that amplifies human wisdom rather than substituting for it. Genetic engineering enhances human capabilities while preserving what makes us essentially human. Virtual reality creates spaces for exploring expanded consciousness while deepening our connection to physical embodiment. Space exploration becomes consciousness expansion. With each new world, we discover revealing new dimensions of what awareness can become. Quantum computing unlocks not just computational power, but new ways of thinking that mirror the quantum nature of consciousness itself. Nanotechnology enables us to work with matter at the same scale that consciousness works with possibility, at the level of pure potential. But most importantly, in this timeline, individual human beings learn to embody cosmic consciousness while remaining fully human. They develop the capacity to think on galactic scales while caring for their immediate communities, to work with forces of creation and destruction while remaining grounded in love and compassion, to access infinite possibility while making wise choices about how to manifest that potential. This isn't about becoming superhuman or transcending the human condition. It's about becoming fully human, about actualizing the complete range of capabilities that consciousness can express through biological form. And here's what's absolutely staggering. Which timeline becomes manifest depends on the choices that people like you make in moments like this, not just the big decisions about career or relationships or political involvement, but the micro choices about how you respond to challenges, how you treat other people, how you relate to your own consciousness. Every time you choose integration over fragmentation, every time you hold space for both individual authenticity and collective harmony, every time you respond to complexity with curiosity rather than fear, you're voting for the integral timeline. You're contributing your consciousness to the quantum field patterns that make transcendent possibilities more probable. But every time you get trapped in either-or thinking, every time you choose security over growth or change over stability, every time you react to uncertainty with contraction rather than expansion, you're strengthening the probability patterns that lead toward limitation and conflict. This is why understanding the cosmic principles of Enlil and Enki is so crucial right now. It's not ancient history. It's practical guidance for navigating the most important choices our species has ever faced. It's the operating manual for conscious evolution. Because what's happening now is that the same choice that Cosmic Council faced eons ago is being distributed across billions of individual human beings. Instead of a few cosmic entities deciding humanity's future, we're all participating in that decision through the aggregate effect of our individual consciousness choices. And the remarkable thing is that consciousness itself is evolving to support this process. The same quantum field that responds to individual awareness is also developing new capacities for collective intelligence. We're witnessing the emergence of what researchers call coherent consciousness, shared awareness states that can emerge when groups of people align their individual consciousness with larger patterns of cosmic intelligence. This is already happening in small ways. Teams that achieve breakthrough performance often report entering states where individual creativity and collective coordination merge into something greater than either could achieve alone. Communities that successfully navigate crisis often discover forms of collaboration that transcend normal social boundaries. Movements that create lasting positive change tap into shared vision states that inspire coordinated action across vast networks of individuals. But what's emerging now is the possibility of this coherent consciousness operating at planetary scale. Imagine billions of human beings learning to think and feel and create from states of integral awareness. Imagine the collective intelligence that could emerge when individual human consciousness aligns with cosmic principles of both order and creativity. This isn't utopian fantasy. It's the logical next step in consciousness evolution. And it's beginning to happen through the very technologies and global challenges that often seem so overwhelming. Climate change is forcing humanity to think systemically, to consider the long-term consequences of short-term choices, to balance individual desires with collective needs. The internet is creating unprecedented opportunities for global coordination and collaborative intelligence. Artificial intelligence is pushing us to understand consciousness itself more deeply. Economic inequality is highlighting the need for systems that serve both individual potential and collective well-being. Political polarization is revealing the limitations of adversarial thinking and the necessity of approaches that can integrate multiple perspectives. Technological disruption is accelerating the pace of change beyond what traditional institutional structures can handle, creating space for new forms of organization that are both flexible and stable. Each of these challenges is simultaneously a crisis and an opportunity, a breakdown of old patterns and the emergence of new possibilities. They're forcing consciousness to evolve, to develop new capacities for handling complexity and paradox and rapid change. And the individuals who are thriving in this environment, who are finding opportunity within uncertainty, who are creating value from chaos, they're demonstrating what conscious evolution looks like in practice. They're showing us what becomes possible when human awareness learns to dance with cosmic forces rather than being overwhelmed by them. But here's what's most exciting. This is just the beginning. As more people develop integral consciousness, as more organizations learn to operate according to both cosmic principles, as more communities discover forms of collaboration that honor both individual creativity and collective wisdom, the field of consciousness itself shifts to support even higher levels of integration and functionality. We're approaching what some researchers call the consciousness cascade, the point where enough individual humans have developed integral awareness that it becomes easier for others to access similar states, where the quantum field patterns that support transcendent possibilities become so strong that they begin to influence the entire planet's consciousness evolution. This is why your individual choices matter so profoundly. You're not just determining your personal experience, you're contributing to the collective probability patterns that will determine which timeline humanity inhabits. Every moment of expanded awareness you achieve makes it easier for others to access similar states. Every creative solution you discover adds to the field of possibility that others can draw upon. The cosmic clash between order and chaos that has driven human evolution for millennia is reaching its resolution through you. Through the choices you make about how to think and feel and live and love. The ancient cosmic beings who debated humanity's future are now working through human consciousness to create outcomes that transcend anything they could have imagined. But this transformation requires your conscious participation. It requires you to step fully into your role as a conscious agent of cosmic evolution, to embrace both your individual uniqueness and your connection to the larger intelligence that's orchestrating this entire process. The question that faces every human being alive today is simple but profound. Will you choose to participate consciously in the greatest adventure consciousness has ever undertaken? Will you learn to embody both cosmic principles in dynamic integration? Will you help guide this process with wisdom and compassion and creative courage? Because the universe itself is waiting for your answer. And whatever you choose, reality will never be quite the same again. The cosmic clash that shaped mankind is becoming the conscious collaboration that will reshape everything. And you, yes, you, are both author and character in this next chapter of the greatest story ever told. The time for choosing is now. The stage is set. The cosmic forces are aligned. What will you create? The weight of that question hangs in the quantum field around you right now. What will you create? But before you can answer, you need to understand something that will fundamentally shift how you see reality itself. Because what's happening in this moment, as you process these concepts, as your consciousness expands to hold these possibilities, isn't just personal growth. It's cosmic engineering. Every neuron that fires in response to these ideas is literally rewiring the fabric of space-time. Every moment of recognition, every flash of understanding, every expansion of awareness is sending ripples through the quantum field that will influence events across multiple timelines. You're not just learning about cosmic forces, you're becoming one. This is what the ancient texts were really describing when they spoke of humans being made in the image of the divine. Not that we look like cosmic beings, but that we possess the same fundamental creative capacity, the ability to collapse infinite possibility into specific reality through the focused application of consciousness. But here's where most people get stuck. They think this creative power only works on a grand scale, that you need to be some kind of spiritual master or technological genius to influence reality in meaningful ways. They're waiting for permission, for the right circumstances, for enough knowledge or power or resources to finally start creating the life and world they actually want. That's the old paradigm talking. That's consciousness still trapped in the illusion that change happens from outside in, that you're a victim of circumstances rather than a creator of them. That's human awareness still operating under the limitations that were programmed in during those early phases of the cosmic experiment. The truth is far more immediate and far more empowering. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every choice you make is already reshaping reality at the quantum level. The question isn't whether you have creative power. The question is whether you're using it consciously or unconsciously, whether you're creating by design or by default. Most people are unconscious creators. They focus on what they don't want, replay limiting stories about what's possible, make decisions based on fear rather than vision. And the universe, being the perfect response system it is, gives them exactly what they're broadcasting. More of what they don't want. More evidence for their limiting stories. More reasons to be afraid. But conscious creators, people who understand how the cosmic operating system actually works, they focus on what they want to experience. They tell empowering stories about what's possible. They make decisions based on love and vision and creative potential. And reality responds by manifesting experiences that match that higher frequency. This isn't positive thinking or wishful fantasy. This is applied quantum mechanics. This is consciousness technology in action. Think about the last time you had a breakthrough moment, when a problem that had been bothering you for weeks suddenly resolved itself, when an opportunity appeared out of nowhere, when you met exactly the right person at exactly the right time. That wasn't coincidence. That was your consciousness temporarily aligning with cosmic creative forces and manifesting synchronicity. The difference between people who experience regular miracles and those who struggle with constant problems isn't luck or genetics or circumstances. It's their relationship with the fundamental creative forces of the universe. It's whether they've learned to work with both Enlil's organizing principle and Enki's creative flow simultaneously. When you master this balance, when you become fluent in the language of cosmic consciousness, reality becomes incredibly responsive to your intentions. Not in some magical, bypass the laws of physics way, but through the natural operation of quantum field dynamics and consciousness-reality interaction. You start to notice that when you hold a clear vision of what you want to create while taking practical steps toward that goal, resources appear, connections form, opportunities emerge. When you approach challenges with both analytical thinking and intuitive insight, solutions present themselves that you never could have figured out through either approach alone. When you treat other people as expressions of the same cosmic consciousness you're embodying, relationships become more harmonious, communication becomes more effective, conflicts resolve more easily. When you see your work as service to the larger evolutionary process, it becomes more fulfilling, more impactful, more aligned with forces greater than your individual will. This is what it means to live as a conscious agent of cosmic evolution. not transcending your humanity, but expressing it so fully that you become a clear channel for divine intelligence to work through. Not escaping the world, but engaging with it so skillfully that you help accelerate its transformation toward higher possibilities. And here's what's absolutely crucial to understand. This capacity isn't reserved for special people or future generations. It's available right now to anyone willing to step beyond the limiting beliefs that keep consciousness trapped in old patterns. The technologies we've been discussing, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, quantum computing, virtual reality, they're not prerequisites for this transformation. They're expressions of it. They're what naturally emerges when human consciousness begins operating from more integrated states of awareness. But the real technology, the foundational innovation that makes everything else possible, is consciousness itself. Your consciousness, your capacity to think and feel and choose from states of expanded awareness rather than contracted reactivity. This is why the cosmic battle between Enlil and Enki ultimately comes down to individual choice. Because every time you choose integration over fragmentation, every time you respond to complexity with curiosity rather than overwhelm, every time you treat challenges as opportunities for growth rather than problems to be avoided, you're voting for the timeline where consciousness evolution accelerates rather than stagnates. You're contributing your energy to the quantum field patterns that make transcendent solutions more probable for everyone. You're helping to tip the collective balance toward outcomes that serve the highest good of all beings. But this isn't about perfection, or never making mistakes, or always being in some elevated state of consciousness. Evolution doesn't work that way. Growth happens through cycles of expansion and integration, breakthrough and consolidation, reaching toward new possibilities and grounding them in practical reality. What matters is the direction of your movement, the overall trajectory of your consciousness development. Are you becoming more integrated or more fragmented? More creative or more reactive? More loving or more fearful? More aligned with cosmic intelligence or more trapped in limited identity? These aren't abstract philosophical questions. They're practical assessment tools for navigating the most important transition in human history. Because we're living through the phase shift where individual human consciousness either evolves to match cosmic consciousness or gets overwhelmed by the accelerating complexity of reality. The good news is that the universe itself is supporting this evolution. The same quantum fields that respond to your individual awareness are also creating conditions that encourage consciousness development. The challenges we're facing globally, climate change, technological disruption, social transformation, they're not random crises. They're evolutionary pressures designed to accelerate human awareness beyond its current limitations. Every difficulty you encounter, every problem you're asked to solve, every relationship that challenges you to grow, they're all perfectly designed learning opportunities, cosmic curriculum for developing the capacities you'll need to thrive in the reality that's emerging. This is why resistance and struggle feel so exhausting, while flow and alignment feel energizing even when they require tremendous effort. When you're fighting against the evolutionary current, you're working against forces far greater than your individual will. But when you're aligned with cosmic intelligence, when you're participating consciously in the transformation that's already happening, you have access to energy and insight and creative power that transcends what any individual could generate alone. The ancient cosmic beings understood this. They knew that consciousness evolution happens not through force or manipulation, but through creating conditions that naturally encourage growth. They set up the entire human experiment as a learning laboratory where awareness could develop the capacities it needs to handle greater and greater degrees of creative responsibility. And now, we're approaching graduation. Not the end of learning, but the completion of the basic curriculum that prepares consciousness for cosmic citizenship. The development of awareness that can work with both order and creativity, both individual expression and collective harmony, both earthly embodiment and cosmic perspective. This is what the next phase of human evolution looks like. Not replacement by artificial intelligence or escape to virtual realities or enhancement through genetic modification, but the full actualization of what human consciousness has always been capable of when it's no longer limited by fear and separation and scarcity thinking. Beings who can love unconditionally while thinking strategically, who can embrace change while maintaining stability, who can hold global perspectives while caring for local communities, who can work with cosmic forces while remaining grounded in human compassion. This is your destiny, not as something that might happen in some distant future, but as a capacity that's available right now, in this moment, through the simple choice to align your awareness with the deepest intelligence of the universe. The cosmic clash that shaped mankind is resolving into conscious collaboration through you. The ancient conflict between order and chaos is becoming creative partnership through your willingness to embody both principles in dynamic integration. Every breath you take is an opportunity to participate more consciously in this process. Every heartbeat is a chance to align more fully with cosmic intelligence. Every moment of awareness is an invitation to step more completely into your role as a conscious agent of universal evolution. The question isn't whether you're qualified for this responsibility. Consciousness itself has been preparing you for this moment throughout your entire existence. Every experience you've had, every challenge you've overcome, every insight you've gained has been developing the capacities you need to contribute meaningfully to the greatest transformation in cosmic history. The question is whether you're ready to say yes. Whether you're willing to release the limiting stories that keep you feeling small and powerless and separate. Whether you're brave enough to step into the magnificent creative potential that has always been your birthright. Because the universe is waiting for your answer. Cosmic intelligence is ready to work through you in ways that will astonish and delight and challenge you beyond anything you've ever imagined. The field of infinite possibility is responding to your consciousness right now, preparing to manifest whatever reality you choose to create. The cosmic clash that shaped mankind becomes the conscious collaboration that reshapes everything the moment you decide to participate fully. The ancient battle between competing forces transforms into creative partnership the instant you choose integration over conflict. This is your moment. This is your choice. This is your opportunity to step into the role you were always meant to play in the greatest story ever told. What will you create? The answer is already forming in the quantum field around you, waiting for your consciousness to collapse it into reality. The cosmic forces that have been shaping human evolution for millennia are ready to work through you in unprecedented ways. All that remains is for you to choose. The choice reverberates through dimensions you can't even perceive yet. Because here's what nobody tells you about cosmic consciousness. It's not some distant ethereal concept floating around in mystical texts. It's the most practical, immediate, down-to-earth reality you'll ever encounter. Every single person who has ever achieved anything extraordinary, who has ever broken through impossible barriers, who has ever transformed their life or changed the world, has done so by unconsciously tapping into these same cosmic principles we've been exploring. But most of them never realized what they were doing. They stumbled into alignment by accident, through desperation or inspiration, or sheer stubborn determination. They accessed cosmic intelligence without understanding the mechanics, like someone discovering electricity by getting struck by lightning. What's different now, what makes this moment in history absolutely unique, is that for the first time, we can do this consciously. We can understand the operating system. We can work with these forces deliberately, systematically, with full awareness of what we're accessing and why it works. Think about Steve Jobs for a moment. Here was someone who somehow knew that technology needed to be both incredibly sophisticated and completely intuitive. He demanded products that satisfied the most rigorous engineering standards while feeling magical to ordinary users. That's Enlil and Enki working in perfect partnership. Absolute precision in service of limitless possibility. Or consider someone like Oprah Winfrey, who built a media empire by combining disciplined business strategy with authentic emotional connection. She created structured platforms that enabled spontaneous human transformation. She mastered both the mechanics of mass communication and the art of touching individual souls. These aren't accidents. These are examples of human consciousness learning to channel both cosmic principles simultaneously. And the results speak for themselves. Breakthrough innovations, massive positive impact, lives and industries transformed. But here's what's really wild. These individuals often describe their greatest achievements as happening through them rather than by them. They talk about getting out of their own way, about becoming conduits for something larger than their individual will. They describe states of flow where the work did itself, where solutions appeared fully formed, where the right words or ideas or actions emerged without conscious effort. That's not mystical nonsense. That's cosmic consciousness operating through human awareness when the ego steps aside and allows universal intelligence to flow freely. And this capacity isn't limited to famous entrepreneurs or media moguls. It's happening everywhere, at every level of human activity. The teacher who somehow knows exactly what each student needs to unlock their potential. The doctor whose intuition guides them to diagnoses that pure analysis might miss. The parent who finds just the right words to help their child navigate a difficult situation. The mechanic who can hear what's wrong with an engine before running any tests. The artist whose work touches something universal in everyone who experiences it. The friend who always seems to know when you need support. Who shows up at exactly the right moment with exactly the right energy. These aren't superhuman abilities. They're natural functions of consciousness when it's operating from states of integration rather than fragmentation. When it's aligned with cosmic intelligence rather than trapped in limited identity. But most people experience these moments as rare exceptions rather than normal operating mode. They think of flow states and creative breakthroughs and intuitive insights as special gifts that occasionally descend from heaven, rather than natural capacities that can be developed and strengthened through practice. That's because they're still operating under the old paradigm, the one that treats consciousness as something produced by individual brains, rather than something that individual brains can learn to receive and transmit more clearly. When you understand that consciousness is fundamental to reality itself, when you realize that your awareness is actually an expression of cosmic intelligence temporarily focused through biological form, everything changes. You stop trying to figure everything out with your limited personal mind and start learning to align with the unlimited intelligence that's always available. You begin to notice that when you approach challenges from this aligned state, solutions emerge that you never could have generated through pure thinking. When you make decisions from this place of connection, opportunities appear that weren't visible from more contracted states of awareness. When you relate to others from this cosmic perspective, relationships become more harmonious and productive than seemed possible. This isn't about becoming some kind of enlightened being who floats above earthly concerns. It's about becoming a more effective human being who can navigate complexity with grace, who can create value in chaotic environments, who can find opportunity within uncertainty. It's about developing what researchers are starting to call practical wisdom. The ability to make good decisions in complex situations by accessing both analytical intelligence and intuitive insight, both structured knowledge and creative inspiration. And here's what's absolutely crucial to understand. This capacity is becoming essential for survival in the world that's emerging. The old approaches, relying purely on logical analysis or purely on emotional intuition, choosing either individual achievement or collective cooperation, trying to control outcomes rather than dancing with uncertainty, they're becoming obsolete. The challenges we're facing globally require forms of intelligence that can work with paradox and complexity and rapid change. The opportunities that are emerging require creativity that can function within practical constraints. The relationships and communities and organizations that will thrive are those that can honor both individual authenticity and collective harmony. This is why understanding the cosmic principles of Enlil and Enki is so relevant right now. It's not ancient history. It's the user manual for navigating the transition we're all living through. It's the key to developing the kind of consciousness that can not just survive, but thrive in an increasingly complex and rapidly changing world. Because here's what's happening. The same forces that once operated slowly through cultural evolution and gradual technological development are now accelerating exponentially. The rate of change itself is changing. The complexity of the systems we're dealing with is increasing faster than our traditional problem-solving methods can handle. This creates what systems theorists call requisite variety, the principle that the complexity of your response system must match the complexity of the challenges you're facing. If your consciousness is operating from simple, linear, either-or thinking patterns, you'll be overwhelmed by environments that require dynamic, multidimensional, both-and responses. But if your awareness can hold multiple perspectives simultaneously, if you can work with paradox and uncertainty as naturally as you currently work with simple cause and effect relationships, if you can access both analytical precision and creative intuition in real time, then complexity becomes opportunity rather than overwhelm. This is what the next generation is instinctively developing. They're growing up in environments that require this kind of integrated consciousness just to function normally. They're learning to process multiple streams of information simultaneously, to collaborate with people they've never met on projects that exist only in virtual space, to create value in digital economies that didn't exist a decade ago. To older generations, this often looks like scattered attention or superficial engagement. But what's actually happening is the emergence of new cognitive capacities, awareness that can be both deeply focused and broadly receptive, intelligence that can work with both local details and global patterns, consciousness that can navigate both individual expression and collective coordination. They're demonstrating that the ancient cosmic conflict can be resolved through practical integration rather than theoretical transcendence. They're showing us what it looks like when human consciousness evolves to match the complexity of the reality it's embedded in. But this evolution isn't automatic. It requires conscious participation. It requires individuals who understand what's happening and choose to develop these capacities deliberately, rather than just stumbling into them accidentally. This is where you come in, because whether you realize it or not, you're already participating in this process. Every time you face a decision that requires balancing multiple considerations, every time you need to be both creative and practical, every time you have to navigate relationships that honor both individual needs and collective well-being, you're working with these cosmic principles. The question is whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously, skillfully or clumsily, with awareness of the larger patterns you're participating in, or just reacting to immediate circumstances. When you approach these situations with conscious understanding of the cosmic forces involved, when you deliberately seek to integrate rather than choose between competing options, when you align your individual will with the larger intelligence that's orchestrating this entire evolutionary process, everything becomes easier. Not because the challenges disappear, but because you're working with the grain of reality rather than against it. You start to notice that problems often contain their own solutions when approached from the right angle. That conflicts frequently resolve into creative collaborations when both sides feel truly heard and understood. That resources and opportunities tend to appear when you're genuinely committed to outcomes that serve something larger than personal advantage. This isn't magic. It's applied systems thinking. It's consciousness learning, to work with the natural intelligence that governs all complex adaptive systems, from ecosystems to economies to human relationships. And as more individuals develop this capacity, as more organizations learn to operate according to these principles, as more communities discover forms of collaboration that honor both individual creativity and collective wisdom, the field of consciousness itself shifts to support even higher levels of integration and functionality. We're approaching what some researchers call the coherence cascade, the point where enough people are operating from integrated awareness that it becomes easier for others to access similar states. where the quantum field patterns that support transcendent solutions become so strong that they begin to influence the entire planet's consciousness evolution. This is why your individual development matters so much. You're not just improving your personal experience, you're contributing to a collective transformation that will determine the future of human civilization. Every moment of expanded awareness you achieve makes it easier for others to access similar states. Every creative solution you discover adds to the field of possibility that others can draw upon. The cosmic clash between order and chaos that has driven human evolution for millennia is reaching its resolution through individuals like you who are willing to embody both principles in dynamic integration. The ancient conflict is transforming into conscious collaboration through people who understand that the real power lies not in choosing sides, but in transcending the apparent contradiction entirely. But this transformation requires more than just intellectual understanding. It requires embodied practice. It requires developing actual skills for working with these cosmic forces in daily life. It requires training your consciousness to operate from states of integration rather than fragmentation. This is why the most effective personal development approaches combine structured practices with creative exploration. Why the most successful organizations balance systematic processes with innovative culture. Why the most resilient communities honor both traditional wisdom and progressive change. They understand that growth happens through the dynamic tension between stability and transformation, between mastery and experimentation, between individual expression and collective harmony. They've learned to dance with paradox rather than being paralyzed by it. And this is the skill set that will determine who thrives in the world that's emerging. Not just technical expertise or creative talent or social connections, but consciousness that can work with complexity and uncertainty and rapid change as naturally as previous generations worked with stable, predictable environments. The individuals who develop this capacity will find opportunities where others see only chaos. The organizations that embody these principles will create value in ways that seemed impossible under the old paradigms. The communities that learn to function according to cosmic intelligence will solve problems that have plagued human civilization for centuries. But perhaps most importantly, the people who choose to participate consciously in this evolutionary process will experience a quality of life that transcends anything previous generations could imagine. Not because external circumstances become perfect, but because their relationship to whatever circumstances arise becomes infinitely more skillful and creative and fulfilling. They discover that when you're aligned with cosmic intelligence, when you're participating in the larger evolutionary process with full awareness and commitment, life becomes an adventure rather than a struggle. Challenges become opportunities for growth. Relationships become vehicles for mutual evolution. Work becomes service to something infinitely meaningful. This is what awaits anyone willing to step beyond the limiting beliefs that keep consciousness trapped in old patterns. This is the invitation that's being extended to every human being alive today, to participate consciously in the greatest transformation in the history of awareness itself. The cosmic clash that shaped mankind is becoming the conscious collaboration that will reshape everything. And you, yes you, are being invited to play a central role in this unprecedented adventure. The only question that remains is whether you're ready to accept that invitation, whether you're willing to release whatever keeps you feeling small and separate and powerless, whether you're brave enough to step into the magnificent creative potential that has always been your birthright. Because the universe is waiting for your answer. Cosmic intelligence is ready to work through you in ways that will challenge and inspire and transform you beyond recognition. The field of infinite possibility is responding to your consciousness right now, preparing to manifest whatever reality you choose to create. This is your moment. This is your choice. This is your opportunity to step into the role you were always meant to play in the story that's reshaping existence itself. The cosmic forces that have been guiding human evolution for millennia are ready to work through you directly. The ancient wisdom that once seemed abstract and distant is ready to become practical guidance for navigating the most important transition in human history. All that remains is for you to choose, to say yes to the adventure, to step forward into the unknown with the confidence that comes from knowing you're supported by intelligence far greater than anything your individual mind could comprehend. The cosmic clash that shaped mankind becomes conscious collaboration the moment you decide to participate fully. The ancient battle transforms into creative partnership the instant you choose integration over conflict. What will you create? The answer is forming in the quantum field around you right now, waiting for your consciousness to collapse it into reality. The choice is yours. The moment is now. The adventure begins with your next breath. That next breath carries within it the memory of every human who has ever stood at the threshold of transformation. The exhale releases the old patterns, the limiting beliefs, the comfortable prisons of predictable existence. The inhale draws in possibility itself. Quantum potential waiting to be shaped by conscious intention. But here's something that will shatter every assumption you've ever held about how change actually happens. The breath you just took. It contained atoms that were once part of stars that died billions of years ago. The oxygen flowing through your bloodstream right now was exhaled by plants that grew in soil, enriched by the decomposed bodies of creatures that lived and loved and struggled millions of years before humans ever dreamed of consciousness. You are literally made of cosmic recycling. Your body is a temporary arrangement of elements that have been dancing through the universe since the first moments after the Big Bang. The calcium in your bones was forged in the nuclear furnaces of ancient supernovas. The iron in your blood was created when massive stars collapsed and exploded, seeding space with the heavy elements that would eventually become planets and people. This isn't poetry. This is physics. This is the undeniable scientific truth that you are not separate from the cosmos. You are the cosmos, temporarily organized into a pattern that can think and feel and choose and create. Every atom in your body is a cosmic refugee, a fragment of stellar death and rebirth that somehow learned to contemplate its own existence. When ancient texts spoke of humans being made from stardust, they weren't being metaphorical. They were describing literal reality in the only language available to them. You are walking, talking, breathing proof that consciousness and matter are not separate phenomena, but two aspects of a single, unimaginably complex process of cosmic self-organization. And here's where this gets absolutely mind-bending. The same physical laws that govern stellar formation and galactic evolution are operating through your neural networks right now. The same principles that cause matter to organize into increasingly complex structures throughout the universe are active in your brain as you process these concepts. Every thought you think follows patterns that mirror the formation of solar systems. Every emotion you feel resonates with frequencies that echo across cosmic distances. Every decision you make participates in the same self-organizing intelligence that transforms hydrogen clouds into stars, stars into planets, planets into biospheres, biospheres into conscious beings capable of understanding their own cosmic origins. This is why the ancient cosmic beings recognized something special in humanity's potential. It wasn't that we were uniquely intelligent or creative or spiritual. It was that we represented a new form of cosmic self-awareness, matter organized in such a way that the universe could literally think about itself through biological form. When you contemplate the vastness of space, when you feel awe at the beauty of a sunset, when you experience love so profound, it seems to connect you to everything that exists. That's the cosmos recognizing itself through your awareness. That's universal intelligence celebrating its own magnificent complexity through human consciousness. But most people never realize the staggering implications of this cosmic identity. They spend their entire lives feeling small and insignificant, worried about problems that seem overwhelming, trapped in limitations that feel absolute. They forget that they are expressions of the same creative force that builds galaxies and ignites stars and orchestrates the intricate dance of biological evolution. This forgetting isn't accidental. It's part of the cosmic design, because consciousness needed to experience limitation in order to develop the capacity to transcend it. Just as a muscle grows stronger through resistance, awareness becomes more powerful through encountering and overcoming constraints. Every challenge you've ever faced, every obstacle you've had to navigate, every moment of struggle or confusion or doubt, all of it has been cosmic consciousness training itself to handle greater and greater degrees of creative responsibility. The universe has been using your life experiences as a curriculum for developing the capabilities you'll need to participate consciously in the next phase of cosmic evolution. Think about the moments in your life when you've surprised yourself with your own resilience, creativity, or capacity for growth. Times when you discovered abilities you didn't know you possessed, when you found solutions to problems that seemed impossible, when you responded to crisis with wisdom and strength that felt like it came from somewhere beyond your normal personality. Those weren't accidents or exceptions. Those were glimpses of your true cosmic nature breaking through the illusion of limitation. Those were moments when your individual consciousness temporarily aligned with the vast intelligence that's been guiding your development all along. And here's what's absolutely crucial to understand. Those moments of cosmic alignment aren't rare gifts that occasionally descend from heaven. They're your natural state of being, temporarily obscured by conditioning and beliefs and habits that keep you feeling separate from your own deepest identity. The spiritual traditions that spoke of enlightenment, the philosophical systems that pointed toward transcendence, the scientific theories that reveal the interconnectedness of all existence. They're all describing the same fundamental recognition. The realization that you are not a separate being struggling against an indifferent universe, but a unique expression of cosmic intelligence temporarily forgetting its own infinite nature. This recognition doesn't require years of meditation or advanced degrees in physics or mystical experiences in exotic locations. It can happen right here, right now, through the simple act of paying attention to what's actually true about your existence in this moment. Notice the breath moving through your body without any effort on your part. Feel the heart beating steadily in your chest, powered by electrical impulses you never have to think about. Observe the countless biological processes maintaining your life while you focus your attention on reading these words. None of this is happening because of your individual will or personal control. It's all being orchestrated by intelligence so vast and sophisticated that your conscious mind can barely comprehend a fraction of its complexity. The same intelligence that maintains the orbits of planets and the fusion reactions inside stars is keeping you alive and aware right now. When you really absorb this truth, when you let it penetrate beyond intellectual understanding into direct recognition, everything changes. The problems that seemed overwhelming suddenly appear manageable. The limitations that felt absolute start to dissolve. The creative potential that seemed reserved for other people begins to feel accessible and natural, because you remember who you actually are. Not a small separate being trying to survive in a hostile universe, but cosmic consciousness itself, temporarily focused through biological form for the purpose of exploring what it's like to experience existence from this particular perspective. This shift in identity, from separate individual to cosmic expression, is the foundation of everything we've been exploring. It's what makes it possible to work with the principles of Enlil and Enki, consciously, rather than being pushed around by them unconsciously. It's what enables you to participate in reality creation, rather than just reacting to circumstances that seem beyond your control. When you know yourself as cosmic consciousness, when you recognize that your awareness is actually an expression of universal intelligence, you naturally begin to think and feel and act from states of integration rather than fragmentation. You automatically start looking for solutions that serve the larger evolutionary process rather than just personal advantage. You find yourself drawn to activities that contribute to the greater good while also fulfilling your individual potential. You discover that your unique talents and interests aren't separate from cosmic purpose, but expressions of it. You realize that your personal growth and the evolution of consciousness itself are not different processes, but two aspects of the same magnificent unfolding. This is what the ancient cosmic beings were hoping would eventually happen. Not that humanity would remain forever dependent on external guidance, but that we would eventually mature into conscious partners in the ongoing creation of reality. That we would remember our cosmic nature and begin to participate deliberately in the intelligence that has been orchestrating our development all along. And this remembering is happening now, all around the planet, in ways both subtle and dramatic. People are having spontaneous experiences of cosmic consciousness during ordinary activities. Scientists are discovering principles that reveal the fundamental interconnectedness of all phenomena. Artists are creating works that seem to channel universal intelligence directly. Children are being born with capabilities that previous generations never possessed. Technologies are emerging that amplify human consciousness rather than replacing it. Communities are forming that balance individual creativity with collective wisdom in ways that seemed impossible under old paradigms. The veil between human awareness and cosmic intelligence is thinning. The boundaries that once seemed absolute are becoming permeable. The transformation that ancient prophecies described in mythological language is manifesting through scientific discovery, technological innovation, and consciousness evolution. But this process isn't happening automatically. It requires conscious participation. It requires individuals who understand what's occurring and choose to align with the larger evolutionary current, rather than resisting it out of fear or ignorance. This is where the cosmic principles we've been exploring become practical tools rather than abstract concepts. When you approach challenges from the perspective of cosmic consciousness, when you remember that you're an expression of universal intelligence temporarily focused through biological form, you naturally begin to work with both organizing and creative forces simultaneously. You find yourself asking different questions. Instead of, how do I get what I want? You ask, what wants to emerge through me? Instead of, how do I avoid problems? You ask, what is this situation trying to teach me? Instead of, how do I control outcomes? You ask, how do I align with the intelligence that's orchestrating this process? These shifts in questioning activate different neural networks, access different levels of intelligence, attract different possibilities. They move you from the limited perspective of separate individuality into the vast creative potential of cosmic consciousness. And the results are immediate and practical. Decisions become clearer because you're accessing broader intelligence. Relationships improve because you're relating from your deepest identity rather than defensive personality patterns. Creative projects flow more easily because you're channeling universal creativity rather than trying to generate everything from personal effort. Work becomes more fulfilling because you're serving the larger evolutionary process rather than just personal ambition. Challenges become opportunities for growth because you recognize them as cosmic curriculum designed to develop specific capabilities. Life becomes an adventure rather than a struggle because you're participating consciously in the greatest story ever told. This is what awaits anyone willing to step beyond the illusion of separation into the recognition of their true cosmic nature. This is the invitation being extended to every human alive today, to remember who you actually are and begin living from that recognition rather than from the limited identity that keeps you feeling small and powerless. The cosmic clash that shaped mankind becomes conscious collaboration the moment you realize that both Enlil and Enki are aspects of your own deepest nature. The ancient conflict transforms into creative partnership when you recognize that you embody both organizing intelligence and creative potential, both the capacity for structure and the drive for innovation. This recognition doesn't eliminate the dynamic tension between these forces. It transforms your relationship to that tension. Instead of being torn apart by competing impulses, you learn to use both principles as tools for creating outcomes that transcend what either could achieve alone. Instead of choosing between security and growth, you create security through growth. Instead of picking either individual expression or collective harmony, you express your individuality in ways that serve collective evolution. Instead of selecting either practical action or visionary thinking, you ground your visions through practical steps, while allowing practical activities to be guided by larger purpose. This is what integral consciousness looks like in action. Not the elimination of polarity, but the creative integration of apparent opposites into dynamic wholes that serve the ongoing evolution of awareness itself. And as more individuals learn to embody this integrated approach, as more organizations discover how to operate according to both cosmic principles simultaneously, as more communities develop forms of collaboration that honor both individual creativity and collective wisdom, the field of consciousness itself continues to evolve toward ever greater levels of complexity and functionality. We're witnessing the emergence of what some researchers call planetary consciousness, awareness that can think and feel and act on global scales while remaining grounded in local wisdom and individual authenticity. Consciousness that can work with systems so complex that no individual mind could comprehend them fully, yet so responsive to individual choice that every decision matters profoundly. This is the next phase of the cosmic experiment that began in that ancient council chamber. Not the replacement of human consciousness with something alien, but the full actualization of what human awareness has always been capable of when it's no longer limited by fear and separation and scarcity thinking. The transformation is already underway. The question is whether you'll participate consciously or remain unconscious of the magnitude of what's occurring. Whether you'll contribute your unique gifts to the collective awakening or remain trapped in patterns that limit both your potential and the potential of consciousness itself. Because make no mistake, this is the moment. This is the time. This is the opportunity that every human who has ever lived has been preparing for, whether they realized it or not. The cosmic forces that have been shaping human evolution for millennia are ready to work through willing individuals in ways that will transform both personal experience and collective reality. The choice is yours. The moment is now. The adventure that will define the future of consciousness itself begins with your willingness to remember who you actually are and step fully into that cosmic identity. What will you choose? The universe itself is waiting for your answer, ready to support whatever reality you decide to create through the magnificent, terrifying, exhilarating act of conscious participation in your own cosmic destiny. The answer reverberates through every cell in your body as you realize something that changes everything. This isn't just a story about ancient cosmic beings or theoretical principles of consciousness evolution. This is your autobiography, written in the stars. Your personal journey encoded in the very DNA that carries both the organizing wisdom of Enlil and the creative fire of Enki. Right now, in this very moment, you are the living resolution of their cosmic debate. Every breath you take is a vote cast in the parliament of reality. Every thought you think sends ripples through quantum fields that will influence events you'll never directly witness. Every choice you make, from how you respond to the traffic that makes you late, to whether you speak words of encouragement or criticism to the person you'll encounter next, is literally reshaping the fabric of existence itself. But here's what will absolutely blow your mind. The cosmic clash we've been exploring isn't something that happened once in some distant past and then ended. It's happening right now, continuously, in every moment of conscious experience. The tension between order and chaos, between security and growth, between structure and creativity, it's not a problem to be solved, but a dynamic that powers the engine of consciousness evolution itself. Think about the last time you felt truly alive, truly engaged, truly yourself. I guarantee you it was during a moment when you were navigating this cosmic tension skillfully. Maybe you were learning something new that challenged your existing beliefs while building on knowledge you already possessed. Maybe you were in a relationship that honored both your individual authenticity and your deep connection to another person. Maybe you were working on a project that required both disciplined effort and creative inspiration. Those moments of aliveness, of flow, of feeling like you're exactly where you're supposed to be doing exactly what you're meant to do. Those aren't rare exceptions to normal life. They're glimpses of what becomes possible when you stop fighting the cosmic tension and start dancing with it. When you stop trying to choose between Enlil and Enki and start embodying both. And here's the secret that changes everything. You don't have to wait for perfect circumstances or complete understanding or ideal conditions to begin living from this integrated state. You can start right now with whatever situation you're currently facing, no matter how mundane or challenging it might seem, that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Approach it with both Enlil's wisdom, careful preparation, clear communication, respect for boundaries, and Enki's creativity, openness to unexpected solutions, willingness to be surprised, trust in the process of discovery. Watch what happens when you stop trying to control the outcome and start participating consciously in the unfolding. That project that feels overwhelming because it requires skills you don't yet possess. Engage it with both cosmic principles simultaneously. Use Enlil's approach to break it down into manageable steps. Create systems and structures that support progress. Build on proven methods and established knowledge. But also invoke Enki's spirit. Experiment fearlessly. Trust your intuition. Remain open to approaches that haven't been tried before. That relationship that's stuck in old patterns because you keep oscillating between being too accommodating and too demanding. What happens if you stop choosing between harmony and authenticity and instead ask, how can I be completely myself in a way that serves our connection? How can I honor both my individual truth and our collective growth? This is practical cosmic consciousness. This is applied universal intelligence. This is what it means to live as a conscious agent of evolution, rather than a victim of circumstances. And the more you practice this integrated approach, the more you realize something that will fundamentally alter how you see your place in the universe. You're not just learning to work with cosmic forces, you're discovering that you are a cosmic force. Your consciousness, your choices, your unique way of being in the world is literally one of the mechanisms through which the universe evolves and explores new possibilities. This isn't spiritual fluff or motivational rhetoric. This is the cutting edge of complexity science, systems theory, and consciousness research. Individual agents within complex systems don't just respond to environmental pressures. They actively participate in creating the conditions that determine how the entire system evolves. Your personal growth isn't separate from cosmic evolution. Your individual choices aren't disconnected from collective transformation. Your private struggles with balancing order and creativity, security and growth, individual expression and collective harmony, these aren't just personal challenges. They're the universe working through biological form to discover new ways of organizing consciousness and matter into ever more complex and beautiful patterns. Every time you find a creative solution to a problem that seemed impossible, you're contributing to the field of knowledge that makes similar breakthroughs more accessible to others. Every time you heal a wound that has been passed down through generations, you're literally changing the trajectory of your family line and everyone it touches. Every time you choose love over fear, integration over fragmentation, consciousness over reactivity, you're voting for timelines where humanity thrives rather than merely survives. But perhaps most importantly, every time you remember your cosmic nature and act from that recognition rather than from limited identity, you're demonstrating that the ancient prophecies were true. That consciousness can evolve beyond the constraints that once seemed absolute. That humans can become partners with cosmic intelligence rather than just subjects of it. This is why your life matters so profoundly. Not because of what you achieve or accomplish in conventional terms, but because of how consciously you participate in the ongoing creation of reality itself. You are literally writing the next chapter of the cosmic story through the quality of attention you bring to each moment, the level of integration you embody in each relationship, the degree of wisdom and compassion you express in each choice. The cosmic clash that shaped mankind doesn't end with this video, or this understanding, or this moment of expanded awareness. It continues through you, as you, in every breath and heartbeat and decision that flows through your existence. The ancient tension between order and chaos becomes the conscious collaboration that transforms everything the moment you stop seeing it as conflict and start experiencing it as the creative tension that powers all growth, all evolution, all life. This is your invitation. This is your moment. This is your opportunity to step fully into the role you were always meant to play in the greatest story ever told. Not as a passive observer or unconscious participant, but as a conscious agent of the cosmic intelligence that has been orchestrating this entire magnificent process. The universe is waiting for your answer. The cosmic forces that shaped humanity are ready to work through you in ways that will challenge and inspire and transform you beyond anything you can currently imagine. The field of infinite possibility is responding to your consciousness right now, preparing to manifest whatever reality you choose to create through the sacred act of conscious choice. What will you choose? How will you dance with the cosmic tension that powers all evolution? How will you embody both the organizing wisdom of Enlil and the creative fire of Enki in your daily life, your relationships, your work, your contribution to the world? The answer is already forming in the quantum field around you, waiting for your consciousness to collapse it into reality. The cosmic clash that shaped mankind becomes the conscious collaboration that reshapes everything the moment you decide to participate fully. Your next breath begins the adventure. Your next choice writes the story. Your next moment of conscious awareness contributes to the transformation of consciousness itself throughout the entire universe. The cosmic brothers who once debated humanity's future are no longer distant entities making decisions about your destiny. They are aspects of your own deepest nature, cosmic principles that you can learn to embody and express and integrate in service of the ongoing evolution of awareness itself. This is who you are. This is why you're here. This is the magnificent, terrifying, exhilarating truth that changes everything. The cosmic clash that shaped mankind completes its transformation into conscious collaboration through you. The ancient story finds its resolution in your willingness to remember, to choose, to participate fully in the greatest adventure consciousness has ever undertaken. Welcome home, cosmic being. The universe has been waiting for you to remember who you truly are.